Imagine the life of a senior partner at a prestigious firm or an executive in a high-growth industry. From the outside, it looks perfect, polished, successful, refined. They spend their days in glass towers and their nights in upscale homes, surrounded by all the markers of wealth: private schools for their children, memberships to exclusive clubs, luxury cars parked in the driveway. But beneath the surface of this success lies a financial paradox, an internal vulnerability that rarely shows up in glossy financial magazines. Despite their massive income, they are operating on what we could call a knife's edge. Every dollar that enters their account is already spoken for by the heavy infrastructure of their life. If that cash flow were to stop for even a single month, the entire system would start to unravel. The reality is that despite their high earnings, they often have little to no net worth. They're trapped in a cycle of high-stakes maintenance, living a life that looks secure on the outside, but is actually quite fragile internally. This situation is not just about lifestyle creep, the typical critique that points to lavish spending on luxury goods. No, this is something deeper, something more insidious. The true culprit here is defensive spending. This isn't about buying an extra vacation home or a designer watch. It's about the mandatory costs that come with maintaining one's position in an elite social and professional environment. The higher up you go, the more expensive it becomes to stay competitive. For many of these high-income earners, spending isn't about indulgence. It's about ensuring access to the rooms where the most important deals are made and the most valuable information is shared. It's about maintaining the social networks that are critical for career longevity. In this environment, spending becomes a form of defensive capital allocation. It's the cost of entry into these exclusive circles. The tragedy, though, is that the very behaviors that allow them to reach a high income also prevent them from ever building true wealth. As their income increases, the cost of maintaining their lifestyle rises proportionally, leaving their net worth stagnant while the numbers on their tax return climb. This creates a profound psychological burden, one we might call the signaling tax. Unlike those further down the income ladder, high earners feel the pressure to maintain an outward appearance of success. In elite circles, your lifestyle becomes a proxy for your competence and reliability. If your outward presentation falters, even slightly, it can signal to peers and superiors that you're no longer a player in the game. This isn't about vanity or ego in the traditional sense. It's a calculated reaction to the environment they operate in, where keeping up with the room is perceived as a functional requirement for job security. The irony is that despite earning more than they ever imagined, many of these high earners feel an overwhelming sense of perpetual financial anxiety. It mirrors the stress of someone living paycheck to paycheck, except they're doing it on a much grander scale. It's a high-speed engine that requires constant infusions of expensive fuel to keep running. And because they're so focused on keeping that engine going, they never have the chance to step back and build a self-sustaining power source. They're trapped in a system where the more they earn, the more they have to spend just to stay in the game. Over time, as this cycle continues, the high earner begins to lose their sense of self. Their identity becomes inseparable from their burn rate. The five-figure property taxes, the private tuition, the high-end insurance premiums, they no longer feel like choices. They're simply facts of life. This cognitive lock-in is what makes the resilience trap so effective. Once the infrastructure of a high-consumption life is in place, dismantling it feels more costly than continuing to live under the pressure of that high burn rate. These individuals are paying for a life they're too busy to enjoy, supported by a career they can't afford to leave. It's a high-velocity equilibrium that, while stable, is remarkably miserable. The math of this situation is sobering, yet the social and psychological pressures from peers and career demands reinforce the walls of this trap every day. This is the architecture of the resilience trap. A world where, despite doing everything right according to the rules, you find yourself further from true freedom than those who never even entered the arena. To fully understand how this trap works, we need to look at a key concept: net worth velocity. Wealth isn't just about the magnitude of one's income, it's about the margin. Let's compare two people. One is a high-level executive earning $500,000 a year, and the other is a professional making $100,000. If the executive's lifestyle demands a 90% burn rate, they're saving only $50,000 per year. On the other hand, the professional with a 50% burn rate is also saving $50,000 annually. On the surface, they both have the same savings rate, But the executive system is far more fragile. They need 10 times the capital to stay operational, and their survival runway is a fraction of the other person's. As income enters higher tax brackets and moves into more expensive social strata, the consumption rate often accelerates faster than after-tax earnings, creating a paradox. The more one earns, the more the system demands in tribute, leaving the earner with a larger income but a more precarious relationship with their own labor. This fragility is further exacerbated by a financial system that is specifically designed to capture the cash flow of high earners. Financial institutions view these high-income professionals not as potential wealth builders, but as machines for servicing large-scale liabilities. Banks offer them jumbo mortgages, luxury lines of credit, and complex financing options. These financial products are marketed as tools for leverage and status symbols, but they often act as anchors, locking the earner into a high-velocity cycle of debt. The real beneficiaries of these products aren't the high earners themselves, they're the institutional lenders. These sophisticated debt instruments keep capital tied up in depreciating or static assets, preventing the critical transition from labor income to capital income. The high cost of debt and lifestyle maintenance eats up the very seed capital needed to make that shift. The economic engine is designed to keep you productive and high earning, but rarely is it designed to help you become financially independent. Breaking free from the resilience trap requires a fundamental shift in identity. It's about moving away from the external metrics of career status and focusing on the internal metric of personal solvency. This shift is difficult because it often requires withdrawing from the competitive consumption of the peer group in favor of building a wide, invisible margin of safety. It's not about deprivation, it's about reclaiming agency over your life. You must view your income not as a means of maintaining a temporary present, but as a tool for buying back your future. When you begin to value the autonomy that comes with a robust balance sheet over the social validation of a high burn rate existence, the pressure of defensive spending begins to dissolve. This shift in identity is the only way to decouple your sense of self-worth from your consumption level, providing the psychological clarity needed to stop the leak in your financial foundation. In the final analysis, true wealth is not the visible markers of success that society often celebrates: the flashy car, the expensive house, the designer brands. True wealth is a silent state, one characterized by the options and peace of mind that exist behind the scenes. The resilience trap serves as a testament to the fact that it's possible to win the game of income while losing the game of independence. The high level of success on the outside can easily mask the erosion of one's financial stability beneath the surface. But the path to lasting resilience doesn't lie in the pursuit of external recognition or in trying to live up to the expectations of others. Instead, it's about recognizing the importance of building a financial foundation that can withstand life's inevitable shocks. The resilience trap shows us that the pursuit of maximum efficiency, whether in our financial lives or in our careers, can be counterproductive. The more we push toward that perfect level of performance, the more fragile the system becomes. The goal, then, is not to accelerate the engine of consumption until it's on the verge of breaking, but to design a financial system that is resilient by nature. This means accepting that wealth isn't found in the velocity of cash flow, but in the stillness of accumulated capital. The ultimate victory is realizing that you no longer need to constantly run just to stay in place. You've created something that works on its own, a self-sustaining engine that requires less effort over time. When you prioritize the internal margin over the external signal, you begin to move away from the pressures of maintaining an image and toward the freedom of financial independence. This shift in perspective is what allows you to transcend the limitations of the resilience trap. It's not about living a life of deprivation or eschewing success. It's about building a system that aligns with your true needs and goals, rather than constantly chasing the next promotion or the next luxury item to maintain your position in the social hierarchy. By focusing on long-term solvency, by building a wide margin of safety, you free yourself from the constant anxiety of living paycheck to paycheck, regardless of how large that paycheck might be. This psychological transition is the hardest part of escaping the resilience trap. It requires the courage to step back from the race and to recognize that the pursuit of wealth is not just about income, but about creating the space to breathe. It's about cultivating a life where your financial system supports you, rather than constantly demanding more and more of you. And once you make this shift, you'll find that the pressure to perform, to show outward signs of success, begins to dissolve. Instead, you start to value the freedom that comes from having control over your own time and resources. True wealth is about understanding that survival is the foundation for growth. You need to ensure that you can weather the storms, that you have the resources to continue playing the game for as long as you want. It's about resilience, flexibility, and strategic patience. It's about building a financial system that can handle the unexpected without breaking. And when you realize that, the game changes entirely. You stop trying to keep up with the Joneses and start focusing on your own future. That's when you begin to truly build wealth, not just money, but the freedom to live life on your own terms. This shift in identity, from being a high-earning participant in a fragile system to becoming a sovereign architect of your own financial future, marks the end of the resilience trap. It's a process that requires deep introspection and a willingness to step away from the crowd. But when you make that leap, you'll find that true wealth lies not in what you can buy or show off, but in the peace of mind that comes from knowing you've built a system that works for you, without the constant pressure to perform. And that peace of mind is worth far more than any external validation or status symbol ever could be. As you move forward, your focus should shift from the pursuit of external approval to building an enduring, self-sustaining financial foundation. It's not about how much you earn, but how much you keep and how much control you maintain over your own future. When you make this shift, you step outside the fragile system of high consumption and enter a world where resilience and autonomy are your greatest assets. That's when you'll realize that the ultimate victory isn't in how fast you run, but in knowing you don't have to run at all. You've already won.